Okay, I wanted to show some of the features of the Miller D-30 mill, and I also want to take it apart and show you the inside of the mill. I've been using this mill for quite a while now, so the inside will have some flour in it that we'll have to clean out. But here's the mill. Sorry about the lighting. Show you the badge here. It's got a badge over here as well. And here are the controls. The green button is on, black button's off. The dial controls the variable speed motor. This controls your grind fineness. It's got a gauge on here that you can turn that has a magnet to dial in where the stones start to begin to touch, and then the knob itself has a fine and a coarse setting. So once we get grinding, I'll turn it actually one full turn plus one to actually bring the stones together with some pressure. I'll show you that later. So the dismantling is pretty easy and really nice. Actually, I'll show you this real quick. There's a cable back here. The cable is for the grain shutoff sensor, which is there. So that's the first step, is to remove the cable. Which I'm going to do now. Once the cable's off, the hopper just lifts right off. It's got a couple dowels for alignment. It's got 5 nuts that are 13 millimeter. top stone off, runner stone. I learned from another YouTube video. Here's a close-up of the stone on top. You can see on this stone there's 2 holes for the hand crank. You can use this as a manual mill. Inside the eye here. Difficult to see, not enough light. I've got the stones raised apart. I'm going to put 2 coins in between the stones, which will help when I loosen the runner stone. I'm going to show that in a second. Couple of coins. Slide them in on either side. And then apply a bit of down pressure. Here's the runner stone. If I had to guess, it's probably about 50 pounds. Bedstone. Get a close up here. One thing this mill has is this propeller, which is really nice. It helps to speed up the grain feed, which I think is one reason why this mill is so efficient. Over here you'll see that flour shut off. I'm going to just lift that up. And now I'm going to clean it up, and then I'll put it back together, show you the hand crank. close up once it's cleaned up here. Runner stone back on. Start with 2 washers and our threaded rod, and this piece is for the grain feed. It's like a jiggler, jiggles the feed chute as the stone turns. It helps it to feed smooth. Doesn't have to be too tight at all. Washer. Nut. Show the underside here. Inside, you'll notice that there's stainless steel, thin stainless steel band around the whole thing and on the top. So it's all stainless inside. Okay, now that it's all back on here, show you the hand grind feature. This is how you're able to take the top off if you're going to do hand grinding. Okay. once the handle's on, you can just turn the millstone by hand. Now you can hear the stone start to touch. And there's a little hopper there, so you can add some grain slowly to the mill as you're hand grinding. I've never used the hand grind feature myself, but I think it's a really nice feature to have. Just the idea that you can grind grain no matter the circumstances is nice. And yeah, this is a pretty efficient way to grind by hand, I would imagine. Turns nice. I think if I were going to be hand grinding a lot, I would probably mount the mill to an immovable surface so that the mill wouldn't walk around as you're grinding, because it does take quite a bit of power from what I've seen on other videos. So that's what that looks like. Okay, so now we can put the top back on. I'm just going to vacuum that piece off here. This has a little dot here, which matches the little dot right there, so that you know how to put it on the right way. I think it's amazing how easy it is to take this mill apart and put it back together. It's very quick. It's quite a bit of a harder process to take apart the Meadows mills to get access to the stones. Something I didn't show before, there's a little hatch here to allow moisture out. You can hook this up like a dryer vent essentially out to the outside if you're doing a lot of milling. That'll allow the moisture to escape. If you do not that much milling like me, you can just open this hatch up when you're done and let it air out for a couple of hours after milling. I'm going to show you underneath. All of these panels are magnetic. Not sure if you can see under here, but you have the ability to adjust the stones, make sure they're running true. There's 3-axis panels, they're all magnetic. comes right off. You can see pulley has double belts. Adjustment for the pulley is back here for the motor, the belt tension I should say. And this is a 3-phase motor. It converts single phase power to 3-phase, which gives it variable speed potential as well as easy or soft startups. And then in this box there's a controller that does the power converting. So I'm going to put the hopper back on. Just like that, it's ready to go again. So I'm going to grind some grain, and I'm going to show you how fast it grinds and also how cool. I find that the mill grinds very cool and also very fast. I also have a mill over here. It's an 8-inch Meadows mill. You see it there, and that 8-inch mill is much slower. It does do a nice job grinding, but it's at the finest setting it only grinds maybe 20 pounds per hour, and this machine is grinding, I would say, over 100 pounds an hour pretty easy, and could go quite a bit faster too if you didn't want it ground so fine. So I'll show you the milling in a bit. Alright, I'm going to weigh out some grain. This is Bull's hard red spring wheat that we grew right outside, right out the window there last year. We're at 0 pounds. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. We got 13.978 pounds. 13.978, so just about 14 pounds. You can see the hopper can hold a lot more. 14 pounds, I'd say it can hold, well, at least 35 pounds, probably more, maybe 50. Never tried maxing it out. Oh yeah, I gotta show you the feed system too. The feed system. It's got a gear here. You lower it down a couple notches, which will lower down the chute. And you can see the shaker down there that hits the wooden rod, giving it a nice, easy, or even feed, I should say. And then there's an additional fine-tuning adjustment on the strings there. And I do find that this feed system is really easy to dial in, and also infinitely adjustable, which is what you want. I'll open up the flower chute. Camera set up here. Okay, so I'm gonna start the mill, and then I'm gonna lower the stones till they just barely touch, and then back it off a little. Then I'm gonna get the feed going, and then I'm gonna tighten the stones down a little bit more to get the fineness where I want it. Didn't hook my sensor back up. Gotta do that before it'll start. Okay, sensor's hooked up. Here we go. This is the slowest speed at 60 Hertz power. That's max speed. so at the end here, you gotta be watching, because once the grain runs out past the sensor, it'll shut the mill off automatically. So if you want it to grind everything completely, you gotta put your thumb over the sensor, and then you'll be there to separate the stones so that they don't grind stone on stone. Sensor's a really nice thing to have, because you can be distracted or busy with something else, and all of a sudden this mill is so fast, all of a sudden the grain is gone. So it's nice to have the sensor to make sure you don't wreck your millstones. And also, even if it runs out, it starts up just fine. You don't have to adjust the stones or anything. It's got plenty of power. Starts up and finishes the grind, and then you can separate the stones so you don't do any damage. There you have it. That ground pretty quick. I'll have to look back in the video to see how long it took. That was 14 pounds of hard red spring wheat. Gotta have a towel bungee cord on here so that you don't get too much dust with this design. I'm gonna get a handful here. I should test the final temperature. Final temperature 92. Mid-90s Fahrenheit, which is a good temperature. It's got a good grind quality to it, holds its shape. This stuff's pretty dry too. I overly dried it. Still holds its shape pretty nice. And this is Bull's hard red spring wheat. So it does a really efficient job and does a really nice job with the grind. I really like it. Alright, so I was going to answer a couple more questions about the mill, provide the feedback that I have so far with it. And before I start, I'm Jake Gall, live in West Bend, Wisconsin. Grew up on an organic dairy farm, and I became interested in sourdough bread and milling after I received a call to repentance, which was probably 10 years ago or so at this point. And ever since, I've been really interested in it. It's been a big blessing. Good for my health, good for my family's health, and something that I've been able to use to help benefit extended family, friends, and others. So it's been a fun journey, really. Oleg wanted me to answer. Oleg's the gentleman from Ukraine who manufactures these mills along with his team of craftsmen. He wanted me to answer a few questions. Why would an American buy a mill from Ukraine, and was it difficult to do so? I have a long list of reasons why I wanted to buy this mill. this mill has a lot of unique features relative to the other options available on the market. I think the first thing you notice about it is just a really beautiful mill. It's well built. I believe it's solid alder. It looks very much like the German mills, but it has advantages over the German mills. Number one, this is a true granite stone mill, whereas the German mills are composite stones, and those composite stones are essentially glued together with an adhesive, and over time, in my viewpoint, you're going to be ingesting some of that adhesive that holds those stones together. It's not a true God-made stone for those German mills. It's actually just a man-made stone. So I really like the idea of having the old granite stones just like they would have years ago. I also like that there's no plastic at all in the milling chamber. It's got a wooden hopper. The whole mill exceeded my expectations in terms of how solid it is. It's also very compact. This room that I have the mill set up in is 15 by 8. It's or 15 by 7, I think. It's a pretty small room, and this mill has a very small footprint. It's also pretty light, so my wife and I were able to carry this mill into the house. Also, it's very narrow. It made it through a very narrow doorway. So it's very portable, and you can take it apart so easily and remove the runner stone to make it lighter yet. I could carry it myself if I removed the runner stone. So it's a neat design. It's also a smaller footprint relative to the flour output you get from it. So I also have an 8-inch Meadows mill, which has a much larger footprint actually than this D-30 mill. The 30 stands for 30 centimeters, so it's just short of 12 inches. I also really like the variable speed capability in the 3-phase motor. The 3-phase motor will definitely be more durable, longer lasting. It runs off of single phase power, which is convenient. It's 220. The mills are designed for 50 hertz power from Europe, but they run off of 60 hertz power as well. They have a power converter, and I could show that piece of the machinery in a future video if anybody would like to see it. A couple other things I really like about the design of the mill: the horizontal stone placement allows for down pressure on the stones, so they have a mechanism to allow to actually put down pressure on the runner stone, which helps to give you an even finer grind. And because you have flour over the entire surface of the milling area, it acts as a dry lubricant, preventing the stones from grinding on one another. So it's really just about controlling the speed of the feed. Making sure you're listening and smelling. Listening so that you don't hear stone on stone. Smelling. Also, if it goes stone on stone, you'll get a burning smell. So you're just controlling the feed to make sure that you don't have that happening, and it's really simple, actually. The other nice features I wrote down here: the feed chute. I really love the feed chute on this mill. It's so much more easy to get it to go into the grinding chamber smoothly and consistently. On my Meadows mill, I find that the feed is a little bit more finicky, and at first I was having trouble with that mill, the Meadows mill, just binding up. I was running it a little too fast, and it didn't take much, just running it a little too fast, and all of a sudden it would bind up and I'd have to back off the stones and kind of start over. I've never had any issue with this at all. I feel like the motor, the three-phase motor, has a ton of power. It just feels well designed. I also like the feed chute has a little magnet. That's nice just in case there might be some hardware in your grain. There's also the sensor that we talked about earlier for automatic shut off of the mill when the grain feed gets too low, which protects the stones from damage. I like how low the temperature is when we're grinding, so you're not destroying enzymes or natural yeasts on the grain. And I really like the hand grinding option, just in case. I love how easy it is to take it apart and clean it. Again, just how beautiful the build is. It really is something. I think that if you owned a bakery or coffee shop or something like that that does baking, it would definitely be a centerpiece and an attraction. Oleg wanted me to answer what is my plan for the mill, and really my plan is just to produce healthy breads and pasta for family and friends, neighbors, and church family. Last year we grew 1.5 acres of hard red spring wheat. My dad and my father-in-law grow organic rye also. So it's just nice knowing where your food's coming from. It's nice knowing that you can turn that grain into food that people enjoy and is good for their bodies and for their families. So that's really my plan. My wife has 14 brothers and sisters, and I have a brother and a sister, and so there's a lot of people in this family. So it made sense to have a bigger mill, and someday maybe have a small bakery of my own. So that was really it. I would highly recommend the mill. One other thing I was supposed to talk about too is just how difficult was it to get the mill from Ukraine, and I found it to be not that difficult. I've never imported anything in my life, and I had to, get the customs clearance completed, which I worked with Oleg and his team on that, and I worked with Clear It USA online. They were very easy to work with. I think the thing that gave me the most confidence, two things really. Number one, I had talked to Oleg prior to purchasing, and I found out he was a believer, which gave me a lot of confidence that I could trust him. But also, whenever I would communicate with them, they were always very responsive, very quick to respond. Within 24 hours, I always heard back. And so the entire time, I never felt anxiety about the mill. When it came, it was packed so well. It had its own crate. It was strapped down into the crate really well. There was no damage during shipping. I was actually able to track it on the ship itself. It ended up coming into Canada and then came down to Chicago, and then it came up by me here north of Milwaukee. So overall, the process was pretty straightforward. There was some shipping delays with the actual ship due to the different port issues and whatever's going on in the world, but it didn't take that long. And now that it's here, I'm really happy with my purchase, and I would recommend this mill to anybody. I think it's amazing, and I think it's a one of a kind. So anyways, that's the story of the D-30 mill, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comments below. So thanks a lot. Bye-bye.